First, I would like, in this contribution, in this talk, I would like to show how can logical analysis contribute to disambiguation. Because when I say to somebody that I'm doing logical analysis, you can sometimes hear, whoa, it's impossible to analyze natural language because it's so ambiguous and so on. And moreover, so that's one goal of this contribution, to show how logic can help us, how logic can contribute. So this has much in common with logic and language. And what does it have in common with theology? I was thinking of it a lot. I think that there is a connection as well, because those ambiguities cause a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of apparent inconsistencies, incompatibilities. You can often also hear that the Bible is full of paradoxes. There are many paradoxes in the Bible and inconsistencies. So that the moral I would like to draw from this talk is that we should read the Bible very, very carefully and try to look for other possible meanings. Because I will also show that quite simple sentences that you would consider perfectly clear, unambiguous, can have 2 or 3 even non-equivalent readings, which was a surprise even for me. So here is the content. I will start with almost 100 years contention on Strawsonian versus Russellian definite descriptions. I always believe that this is over for a long time, that it has been so that Strawson was right, and to my great surprise I found out that it is still a very, very hot topic, and that still there is a great debate who was right, Russell or Strawson. My solution will be they were both right. It was a misunderstanding. Again, a misunderstanding. Then I will briefly introduce a problem of topic focus articulation, and then the key to my solution, which will consist in the outline of the proper division of labor between Russellian and Strawsonian conceptions of definite descriptions. I will skip foundations of TIL because it will take too much time. Instead, I will just always explain, if I need it, I will just explain particular construction or formula if you want. And I will finish with the general analytic schema. I will generalize these ideas from definite descriptions to general terms as well, and conclusion. So, proper name versus definite descriptions. I think that well, the semantic theory of proper names is quite complicated, but independently of any particular theory, a proper name should be a rigid designator of a numerically particular individual. Whereas a definite description, like for instance the mayor of Donnellan, the Pope, the first man to run 100 meters under 9 seconds, etc., offers an empirical condition that enables us to establish which individual satisfies the criterion at a particular state of affairs, if any. For instance, nobody till now ran 100 meters under 9 seconds, of course. And I will, this discussion was actually triggered by Russell's paper in 1905, Undenoted. And Russell's key idea is the proposal that a sentence like DF is a G is to be understood to have the logical form, Russell's translation. There is an X that is F, and there is the only one such thing, and this thing has the property G, rather than simply the only F is a G, which is a bit strange. That's quite a complicated molecular translation of a simple sentence. And Russell himself defended this idea that we must discover logical form of a sentence, and sometimes it's hidden and so on. And this theory was prevailing for almost 50 years, though, and maybe that it's still a prevailing theory of definite descriptions, but it also met a sure amount of criticism. To summarize the critical points, issues. First, Russell actually eliminated Plan's descriptive operator and deprived definite descriptions of their self-contained meaning, which is strange because I do understand the term the first run to run 100 meters under 9 seconds. It has definite meaning. Second objection. For sure, Russell's translations of simple sentences into the molecular form is rather enigmatic, and it disregards the demand of structural similarity between analysandum and analysans. But maybe the most serious objection was this one, that Russell simply got the truth conditions of these sentences wrong in important cases of using descriptions when there is no such thing as the unique act. And this criticism was triggered by almost 50 years later by Peter Strawson and the paper I'm referring. This is still Russell, but an older one. Peter Strawson said that Russell's theory predicts the wrong truth conditions because according to Russell, this sentence is currently false. But according to Strawson, this sentence can be neither true, it's not true for sure, but it cannot be false as well, because if it were false, then the negated sentence, the King of France is not bold, would have to be true. And the negated sentence also entails that the King of France exists, come to the assumption. That was the main argument of Peter Strawson. Well, I will spend just 1 minute on saying some gossip. I like gossips. We had a conference 3 years ago, I believe, in Prague. That was some anniversary. And there was Strawson's son, and he married his daughter, etc. And there was also a widow of Peter Strawson. And I shared a table with her. When having a dinner, she was a very nice lady, and she told me the story when Peter Strawson published this paper that Russell got really awfully upset, and she was at that time pregnant with her son, and highly pregnant, expecting each day giving birth. And Peter came home from the university. Is there anything new? Okay, I'm going to the faculty. I have to discuss with Mr. Russell, very charming. He came on Saturday morning. Anything new? Oh, no, nothing. Okay, I can go back to discuss the problem with Bertrand Russell. He came on Saturday evening. Anything? Oh, you are Russell, you got a son. Oh, that's good news. I can go back to eventually on Sunday evening, his friends told him, well, when you come home, take at least a large bouquet to your wife. And Russell, as far as I know, was really upset. And so Strawson's doctrine says, if there is no present king of France, then anathema sure is a bit defective. But the sentence, if it is true, it not only entails the existence of the present king of France, but also presupposes. And if the present king of France fails to refer to an individual as it is right now, then the presupposition is false and the sentence has a truth-value gap. It's neither true nor false. And nevertheless, for Strawson, sentences are meaningful in and of themselves, independently of the contingent existence of the King of France. Russell, in response, published this in 1957. Suppose, for example, that in some country there was a law that no person could hold public office if he considered it false that the rule of the universe is wise. I think that an woke atheist who took advantage of Mr. Strawson's doctrine to say that he did not hold this proposition false would be regarded as a somewhat shifty character. And the contention goes on and goes on. I would spend the whole hour, so just very briefly. Donnellan in '66 came with a very interesting proposal that in a sense, there is a sense in which both Strawson and Russell are right and wrong as well about the proper analysis of definite descriptions, because definite descriptions can be used in at least two different ways. On a so-called attributive use, a sentence of the form the F is a G is used to express a proposition equivalent to something like whoever is a unique F, or among those who are G, there is a unique F. Alternatively, on a referential use, a sentence of the form of this form is used to pick out a specific individual and predict G of this specific individual. And Donnellan suggested that Russell's quantificational account is okay for attributive uses, whereas Strawson's works for referential uses. Ludlow in 2007 published a paper summarizing examples for Russell and counterexamples for against Russell for Strawson, and Kripke, in response to Donnellan, for sure, Kripke said that's all entirely a matter of pragmatics. Neil supports Russell's view. On the other hand, a number of logicians and linguists have recently come to Strawson's defense. Quite recently, Fintal Kaifon published a paper, would you believe it, the king of France is back. And he urges that every definite description is connected with a presupposition, the existential presupposition. I will show that he actually considers only a neutral reading. So here it might suffice to say that Strawson's concerns have not delivered a knockout blow to Russell's theory, and the topic remains very, very much active. There was even a special issue of mind, essentially later devoted to this problem. So my proposal is this. I would like to show that my proposal is a proper division of labor between Russell and Strawson. I'm not going to take into account Kripke's pragmatic factors, because these are irrelevant to a logical semantics, and I'm doing logical semantics. So instead, I'm going to show that, first, definite descriptions are not deprived of their self-contained meaning, and they denote one and the same entity in any context. Denote, I don't say refer to. I do distinguish denoting and referring. Referring is in a particular state of affairs, whereas denoting is independently or in all states of affairs. Thus, definite descriptions are never Russellian. Second, Russell was nevertheless right in his insight that the definite description BF does not refer to a definite individual. Rather, it denotes a condition to be contingently satisfied by the individual, if any. And I will explicate such conditions in terms of, I think this is common, in terms of possible word intentions. So that these are mappings that dependently on modal and temporal parameter return as its value at most one individual. And these are usually, church call these intentions individual concepts. I will call them individual roles or offices. Third, I'm going to show that Donnellan was right, that it was a very interesting proposal. Unfortunately, Donnellan did not work it out anymore. That sentences of the forms here is a G are ambiguous, and not only these, I will generalize these ideas. But their ambiguity does not concern a shift of reference or shift of meaning of the definite description df. Rather, the ambiguity concerns different topic focus articulations of these sentences, and this is closely connected to the problem of the supposition, the dicto, or Donnellan. So, I will show how to move beyond that dilemma, Strawson or Russell. Well, I would like to show us that Russell and Strawson took themselves to be at the loggerheads, as is demonstrated by the story of Peter's wife, whereas in fact they spoke at cross purposes. The received view is that there is a room for at most one of the two positions, since they are deemed incompatible. And they are, of course, incompatible if they must explain the same set of data. But they should not, in my view. One theory is excellent at explaining one set of data, but poor at explaining the data that the other theory is excellent at explaining, and vice versa. So that's my goal to show, and my novel contribution advances the research into definite descriptions by pointing out how progress has been hampered actually by a false dilemma, and how to move beyond that dilemma. So first, what do I mean by topic focus ambiguity? In general, each sentence, very rough structure of a sentence is that there is a topic, say P, and focus is predictive of this topic. So there are at least two possibilities. The description df may occur in the topic of a sentence, and some G, the focus, is predicated about the topic. Then the structure is this one. This case corresponds to Donnellan's referential use. Using medieval terminology, I must say that df occurs with the res supposition to pick out a particular individual, if any, and to predict the property G of this individual. And this reading, the sentence presupposes the existence of a unique f, for sure. Thus, Strawson's analysis appears to be adequate. But there is another possibility, and that was a problem, because when Ludlow connected those examples, I could notice that in some example, in some linguistic context, either this or that possibility was more natural, but there are always both the possibilities. So the other option is G in the topic and the F in the focus. Then the structure is opposite, this one. And this reading corresponds to Donnellan's attributive use of F, and the description occurs with the dicto supposition. And this reading, the sentence does not presuppose the existence, but only entails the existence of a unique F. So that Russellian analysis is an adequate one. And there is, of course, the third possibility, the neutral reading. This was urged for by Entail in that recent paper on definite descriptions. And this reading, every definite description is connected with the presupposition of the existence. Well, I can skip this, these are just some more examples. So I would like to logically analyze this problem. Again, there is much dispute. Is it a semantic or pragmatic problem? Many linguists say, oh, this is just a pragmatic problem. I'm going to demonstrate the semantic nature of the topic focus difference by means of a logical analysis, of course, within the framework of Transparent Intensional Logic, or what a surprise. And moreover, the proposed solution of the definite description problem generalizes to any sentences differing in their topic focus articulations, so not only to containing singular constituents, but also general ones. And I will show that topic is connected with a presupposition. In general, it doesn't have to be an existential one, whereas focus usually triggers a mere entailment. So just to summarize very schematically the difference between a presupposition and mere entailment. Entailment, that's well known, S entails but does not presuppose P. It means that P is true in every state of affairs in which S is true. But if S is not the case, we cannot say anything about the truth value of P. On the other hand, P is a presupposition of S if P is entailed by S as well as by negated S. So that we obtain as a corollary if the presupposition is not the case, then S has a truth value gap. So this is the difference between a presupposition and a mere entailment. So Russell took this stance, this is Strawson's stance. Now very simple, I will show very simple examples. When you have this sentence, all students of logic enrolled in University of Ostrava in winter time 2010, and you know, just to avoid any possible ambiguity, passed the final exam. Would you suppose that this sentence is ambiguous? I would not, I have to admit. Yet, this sentence has at least two non-equivalent readings. So, scenario 1, first reading. We are talking about the students who signed up for logic, for Duži course. What about those students? How did they do? Question, answer. Oh well, they all passed the final test. I would like to say it with Russell. On this reading, there is a presupposition that there are some students who signed up for the course, for the logic course. And if not, then the sentence has no truth value because the negated sentence cannot be true as well. Some students who signed up for the logic course did not pass the final exam. So presupposition on this reading that there are some students signed up for the course. And the sentence merely entails that the final exam has taken place. Because the sentence can be false for two reasons. Either some of the students did not succeed or none of the students succeeded because the exam has not yet taken place. But there is a second scenario. We are talking about the final exam. What about the final exam in logic? What are the results? Oh well, all students passed. And this reading is quite opposite. Scenario is different. There is a presupposition that the final exam have already taken place. If it has not, then no truth value gap, because the negated sentence cannot be true as well. The final exam has not been passed by all students, and the sentence merely entails that some students signed up for the course. So you can see these are two non-equivalent scenarios, two non-equivalent readings, and there is a neutral reading, of course, what I want. Note that if we try to analyze this difference in first order predicated logic, what can we do? Well, it's something like this, a formula like this. All x, if x is a student of logic, then x succeeded in the final test. But every interpretation assigning an empty set to the predicate L is a model. So, in my opinion, there is no way to respect the truth conditions concerning presuppositions and these ambiguities in first order logic. We need a richer framework, and my background theory is, of course, TIL. Well, I will skip that. I said that I have no time to go into details of TIL. Maybe that this semantic schema, that this is useful. That's the whole semantic schema. I could finish at this point. Expresses a procedure, and the procedure is defined as TIL construction. To make the method of analysis easier, we of course also consider the type of the product of this procedure, which is the denotation of expression, if any. Typing, constructions, I have done it yesterday. Three kinds of context, that's also quite important. In a hyperintentional context, construction is an object of predication, a functional argument. In intentional context, construction is used to present a function without presenting a value. The function is an object of predication in extensional context, the value of the constructed function is the object of predication. Another constraint that we have to follow is partiality. While constraint, it makes it possible to, because our logic is a partial kind of calculus, and this makes it possible to analyze the problem of presupposition and truth value verbs in a very natural way. So we involve properly partial functions and improper constructions which fail to produce a product. So improperness basically arises from the procedure of application of a properly partial function f to an argument a such that f returns no value at a, so that the procedure of functional application, which is our composition, induces an extensional context. And this is roughly the way we deal with partiality. If f has no value at a, then this composition is improper for sure. And so is any construction occurring extensionally and having this improper composition as a constituent. Partiality is strictly propagated up, principle of compositionality. Until the context is raised up to an intentional or hyperintentional level. This is always proper. It always constructs a function, albeit maybe a degenerated function that has no value at each argument. And hyperintentional level, this is also always proper because it constructs just this improper composition. So, back to the example of students who signed up for logic as a final term. So the sense on the first reading is this one. If there are some students in logic, then true or false, according as all of them pass the exam, else fail to produce a truth value. Here is a schematic, just a schematic analysis. If there are some students who signed up for the course of logic, then all these students who signed up for logic pass the exam, else fail to produce a truth value. That's the sense of the sentence. An instruction how in any state of affairs at any time evaluate the truth conditions. According to scenario 1. Well, so back to the King of France. Strawsonian reading. The King of France is bold. Russell, I will mark the topic of the sentence in italics because I consulted this with linguists and there is no rule for marking the topic focus articulation. Though linguistic output is an input for our logistic analysis, the Prague linguistic school developed a so-called tree-bank with technogrammatical level, and they do have topic focus articulation there. And the Russellian reading, the topic is bold, so we could reformulate the sentence. Among the boldies, there is a King of France. So you would most probably protest, this cannot be true, because there is no King of France now. So it is not true, it's false that among the boldies there is a King of France. And such a reading of the sentence is about boldness, topic claiming that this property is instantiated by the King of France focus, and the sentence is simply false. Here is the analysis of Strawsonian reading. It's quite simple. The meaning of the King of France is all the time the same. The construction of this office, King of France, which is extensionalized because we ascribe the boldness not to the office but to the individual who holds the office, so that this construction occurs with the rest supposition and the two principles that are valid. Existential presuppositions, Strawson, and substitution of qualifying terms. Here are the proofs. They are so trivial that we can skip them. They're really trivial truths. And the only problem is that I always have to check whether what is constructed is not improper and the constructed set not empty, and then I can only then I can apply existential generalization. Sure, in the work with partial functions. So how to analyze Russellian reading? On this reading, the sentence is true if among the bold there is the King of France, false if among those who are bold there is no King of France. Either, again, two possibilities, either because the King of France does not exist, or because he has a lot of her, he's not bold. Note that Russellian and Strawsonian analysis are co-entailing, yet not equivalent, different conditions. Why? They differ in those states of affairs where the office goes vacant. Russell is false, Strawson truth value gap, because word with partial, properly partial functions, a proposition is such a properly partial mapping. So in some states of affairs, Strawsonian proposition has a gap, Russellian is false. Otherwise, if they are true, they are both true. So they are co-entailing yet not equivalent. That's another consequence of the partiality constraint. So Russellian analysis. This is a literal analysis of Russellian reformulation. Okay, on this analysis, the King of France is not deprived of its meaning. It's again this construction, as always, because our analysis is anti-contextualist. We assign context invariant means. Yet I'm not content with this analysis. The reason is this: there is another defect of Russell analysis. It does not comply with, I would say, Carnap's principle of subject matter. Only those entities that receive mention in the sentence roughly can become constituents of its meaning. And the King of France is bold. The sentence does not mention existence, does not mention conjunction, etc. So this is not a literal analysis of the original sentence, complying with Carnap's principle of subject matter. Well, Russell urged for his theory. Let's go on. Maybe that's the end. That any theory or that is Strawsonian is apt to infringe the law of contradiction, and this is intolerable. So, if any theory can be found to avoid this result, it's surely to be preferred. Of course, he preferred his theory. So I want to show that Thiel as a hyper-intensional type partial ambiguous is in a much better position to solve the problem. Note that there is another very, very important difference between Strawson and Russell. That's the way negative form is obtained. They negate in two different, non-equivalent ways. Strawsonian negation is this one. The King of France is not bold, which of course entails the existence. And this sentence again lacks the truth value if the King of France does not exist. Russellian reading is this one. It is not true that the King of France is bold. And these two negations are not equivalent in the logic of partial functions. Because Strawson ascribed the property of not being bold to a particular individual, whoever, if any, is the King of France, whereas Russell ascribes the property of not being true to the whole proposition, which is a great difference. So that to analyze Russellian reading, we use a property of propositions to be true defined as follows. Well, it's not definition that has a consequence, but the definition is obvious. We have always three possibilities: true, false, or undefined. Truth value gap. So if P is not true if it is false or undefined. That's Russellian way, unlike Strawsonian. So here is the proper analysis of Russellian reading. It is true that the King of France is bold, and this analysis is. In this analysis, I overcome all those critical objections against Russellian analysis. The King of France has assigned its context invariant, meaning the sentence does not presuppose the existence, only entails, because even the negated sentence does not presuppose the existence. just because we assign the property of being true to the whole proposition, the Queen of France occurs the dicto in both readings, which is just as it should be. Well, some more examples, just very quickly to illustrate the problem. The King of France visited London yesterday. If the topic is the King of France, then the sentence presupposes that the King of France exists now at the time of evaluation. Here is the easy analysis, just to show that we can do that. The other reading, London, the topic, we predict of London that it was visited by the King of France yesterday. And this reading in the sentence merely entails that the King of France existed yesterday. At some time this child belonging to yesterday, and here is the analysis. So, and this analysis, the King of France is used with the dicto supposition with respect to temporal parameter. This is another time at the time of evaluation. Again, two non-equivalent readings. Some more examples. The global financial economic crisis was caused by the Bank of America. At the first reading, it presupposes that there be a global financial economic crisis and merely entails that the Bank of America exists now. And the other reading, the Bank of America topic, presupposes that the Bank of America exists and merely entails that there be a global financial economic crisis. And these examples are again analyzed schematically using this if and else. It's not a complete analysis. So that to finish the analysis, I have to show both the definition of the if and else function. I took up to the end of how much time?
5 minutes.
So how to analyze if and else? Well, this function is usually said to be a non-strict function, non-complying to the principle of compositionality, because a simple analysis in propositional logic is not adequate, so that I say there is no cogent reason for non-strictness, because the meaning of it is a two-phase instruction. This is an example where I do need double execution. In the first phase, make a choice between C and D based on P. Here is the instruction how to make the choice. Choose the only construction C such that if P is true, then C and C equals C, non-P, C equals D. And second step, execute the chosen construction C. Here is the analysis, therefore double execution. Note again that in the first stage we do not execute any of the procedures. We just operate on those procedures on the hyperintensional level. Okay, and the general analytic schema of sentences like this: if presupposition P is true, then C, else C is the meaning of the sentence, else truth value gap, fail to produce a truth value is this one. Choose the only construction C, P and C is the meaning, or non-P then false, so that the set constructed is empty and the singular result is undefined, as it should be. And if you choose this construction, then execute with double execution. These are technical details, and come to the concluding remarks. So, a logical analysis, of course, cannot disambiguate any sentence, because it presupposes full linguistic competence. Yet, what I wanted to show that our fine range method can contribute, can help us, by making these hidden features explicit and logically tractable, and even discover those ambiguities in cases where you would not suppose that it is ambiguous and then misunderstanding. I didn't mean that the test already took place and so on. Or I didn't mean that the King of France exists now, he existed when he visited and so on. In case there are more senses of a sentence, it is ambiguous, we furnish simply the sentence with different TIO constructions. And having a formal fine-grained encoding of a sense, you can then derive relevant consequences which can be different cases. So the moral to be drawn. Now I can come to that moral. I would like to draw. Well, God multiplied languages by Babel Tower, and people stop understanding each other. But even within one language, we often do not understand each other. Also, sometimes we do not listen to the other. But sometimes this is caused just by these ambiguities. And then a lot of misunderstanding, confusion arises. So I would like to say that there is also Holy Spirit who gave us wisdom, tolerance, the ability to listen to the other, to each other, and come to the beginning. In the Bible there are many such ambiguities because one cannot read Bible literally. Jesus never said do this or that. He always gives us a story that can be interpreted in different ways. So we should read it carefully, and we should also take into account historical background and always consider, couldn't this be interpreted in another way, and then maybe there is no inconsistency, no paradox, and so on. References again, that's our book that has been published last year, but just this topic is not contained in the book. That's a new stuff. And some more. I published a paper on the focus articulation, and that's another paper, maybe this book. So, questions that I will try to answer as I fail.